Narine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityanand Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Yes, so text 1, chapter 12. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Conversation between Maharaja Rahugana and Jadabharat. Because Maharaja Rahugana was still doubtful about his enlightenment, he asked the Brahmana Jadabharat to repeat his instructions and clarify ideas he could not understand. In this chapter, Maharaj Rahugana offers his respectful obeisances to Jadabharat, who was concealing his real position. The king could understand by his speech how exalted and advanced he was in spiritual knowledge. He very much regretted his offense against him. Maharaj Rahugana was bitten by the serpent of ignorance, but he was cured by the nectarian words of Jadabharat. Later, because he was doubtful about the subjects discussed, he made further inquiries. One question after another. First, he wanted to be released from the offense he had committed at the lotus feet of Jadabharat. Maharaj Rahugana was somewhat unhappy at not being able to grasp Jadabharat's instructions, which are full of meaning that could not be understood by a materialistic person. Therefore, Jadabharat repeated his instructions more clearly. He said that on the surface of the globe, all living entities, moving and unmoving, were but transformations of earth in different ways. The king was very proud of his king's body, but that body was simply another transformation of the earth. Out of his false prestige, the king was misbehaving towards the palanquin carrier, as a master towards a servant, and he was actually very unkind to other living entities. Consequently, King Rahugana was unfit to give protection to the citizens. And because he was ignorant, he was unfit to be counted amongst advanced philosophers. Everything in the material world is but a transformation of the earth, although things have different meanings. Different names according to their transformations. Actually, the varieties are one and the same, and ultimately all these varieties are vanquished into atoms. Nothing is permanent in this material world. The variety of things and their distinctions are simply mental concoctions. The absolute truth is beyond illusion and is manifest in three features: the personal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ultimate realization of the absolute truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, called Vasudev by his devotees. Unless one is blessed with the dust of the feet of a pure devotee on his head, one cannot possibly become a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jadabharat also told about his own previous birth and informed the king that by the grace of the Lord, he still remembered all the incidents of his past life. Due to the activities of his past life, Jadabharat was being very cautious and was therefore assuming the characteristics of a deaf and dumb man to avoid mingling with the material world. Association with the material modes of nature is very powerful. The bad association of materialistic men can be avoided only in the association of devotees. In the association of devotees, one is given an opportunity to render devotional service in 9 different ways: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam. In this way, in the association of devotees, one can pass over material association, cross over the ocean of nations, and return home back to Godhead. So in this chapter now, Maharaj Rahugana is actually going to ask for 2 things. One is, first of all, he'll ask for forgiveness for his offenses. And second is, he is going to seek clarification of all the topics he could not understand. Now, you see, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Yasya prasadat bhagavad prasado, yasya prasadan nagati kutopi. The living entity by constitution is a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Mamev ansha jivaloke jivabhut sanatana. But manaha shasthani indriyani prakriti sthani karshati. But due to their conditioned nature, they are present within the material world and they are suffering from the pangs of from the pangs of materialism and the consequences those actions bring. To re-establish this connection is not so easy. Krishna bhuli sei jeev anadi bahir mukha ataiva maya tare de sansara dukha. Krishna bhuli sei jeev anadi bahir mukha. From time immemorial, the living entity has forgotten Krishna. And now, even though we are receiving the instructions, we are not able to remember him. So the reason for that is that our connection with him is practically lost. So we need an intermediary, someone who is coming directly from Krishna but can approach us. So that intermediary is the spiritual master, the guru. Therefore, the scriptures advise tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. So one should approach a spiritual master humbly. He should render service and make relevant inquiries. Srila Prabhupada explains that both blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. One should not ask spiritual master nonsense questions, especially questions related to material nature. And at the same time, one should not follow the instructions simply because they are given by a spiritual master. One should make inquiries. One should convince oneself. One should purify one's consciousness by asking right questions and acquiring the knowledge completely. So Jada Bharat was acting as a guru. So Krishna bhuli sei jeev anadi bahir mukha. The living entity has forgotten Krishna completely. So by forgetting Krishna, we get caught up in the three modes of material nature. Daivi esha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya. Krishna is saying, Daivi hi esha gunamayi. So this divine energy of mind, which is consisting of three modes of nature, mama maya duratyaya, this maya is very difficult to overcome. Mama eva ye prapadyante maya etam tarantite. Mama eva ye prapadyante. So Mama eva ye prapadyante, those who surrender to me, them I can deliver. So the spiritual master accepts this surrender on behalf of Krishna. So one should serve the spiritual master very humbly and make inquiries. But at the same time, one should be very careful not to offend the spiritual master. Yasya prasadan nagati kutopi. By the dissatisfaction of spiritual master, one achieves no destination. Nagatihi kutopi. One achieves nothing. So one has to be very careful to please the spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada writes in this connection that I never asked anything to my spiritual master except for one thing. How can I serve you? So, of course, Srila Prabhupada is an exalted personality, and one may think why Srila Prabhupada was not asking questions related to Bhagavatam or Gita. But Srila Prabhupada's inquiry was the most relevant one. How can I serve you? So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada gave him instructions. He said, yes, print books and preach in the West. Print books in English and preach to the West. And Srila Prabhupada took almost like a whole lifetime, almost 50 years he took to fulfill that instruction. So this is how one approaches a spiritual master. Understanding, so when we say that the dust of a pure devotee on one's head, it doesn't literally mean dust. So we sometimes see, that devotees go to Vrindavan and then they'll roll on the dust and then they'll come back. So that's a nice sentiment. It's a nice sentiment, but one has to understand the philosophy behind it. Simply rubbing dust onto one's head is not going to work. One has to accept the dust of instructions and follow them. Then one will become purified. That is real dust. That is the real dust of the lotus feet of a pure devotee. So by obeying the instructions of the spiritual master, one actually achieves perfection in this life. So Maharaj Rahugana had unknowingly offended Jada Bharat. So two reasons. One was offense to the pure devotee, and second was offense to other living entities out of ignorance. Maharaj Rahugana was in ignorance. He was thinking himself to be the king, and therefore in that pride, he had offended not only Jada Bharat but also the palanquin carriers, meaning that he was cruel to other living entities. So it was Vaishnava Aparadha and Jiva Aparadha. because of which he could not understand this knowledge. Actually, it's very simple. Krishna is saying, Sarva dharmana parityajya mama ekam sharanam vraja. Aham tvama sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shucha. But we are not able to do it. We are not able to understand this instruction because our hearts are contaminated with the modes of passion and ignorance, and they are hardened by offenses. So therefore, we have to purify ourselves. So Jal Bharat first asked for forgiveness, then he asked for clarification. Now, Jal Bharat, the king, was proud of his king's body, but that body was simply matter. So therefore, he was unfit to render protection. Now we have seen this verse in the previous, in this canto itself, instructions of Rishabdev, that one should not become a father, a mother, a teacher, a spiritual master, or a demigod if one cannot deliver one's dependents from the cycle of birth and death. So one who is in ignorance, himself or herself, is unfit to be a leader. So one cannot be a mother or a father or a king or a demigod or a spiritual master if one doesn't have spiritual knowledge. In other words, if one has not surrendered to Krishna, he is unfit to be in any position. He is unfit to serve in any position. So therefore, because of this ignorance and the false arrogance that he had acquired, thinking himself to be the king, he was unfit actually in that position. A king is not supposed to rule people. He is a servant. He's supposed to serve people. So everything in this world is just a transformation of matter. Dvaite bhadra bhadra gyan sab manodharma. Ei bhala ei manda ei sababhram. So this is the misconception that in this world we think that something is good or something is bad. Actually, everything is just a transformation of matter. The Mahat Tattva being churned by the Brahma or the living entity gives rise to so many shapes. There are planets, there are skies, there are stars, there are living entities, but all these are just transformations. Brahman, just like you see a soda bottle, there is carbon dioxide in water, and then you get a sensation when you drink that water. But as soon as if the water is left alone, when all the gas escapes, it just turns to passive watery state. So like that, when all the Brahma has left the matter turns passive. So therefore, to think that something is good or bad in this world is just a mental misconception. It's just a concoction. Ei bhala, ei manda, ei sababhram. It's just an illusion. So, so Jal Bharat then gave him his own example. Now, this is a very interesting point. The spiritual master is always an acharya. That means he leads by his own acharan. So Jal Bharat is explaining with his own example how, by making a simple mistake, he landed up in this position. So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives a very interesting instruction. Asat Sanga Tyaga Ei Vaishnava Achar. Stri Sangi Eka Asadhu Krishna Bhakta Ara. That means one who is overly lusty or one who is simply not a devotee of Krishna, such kind of people, they are Asat Sanga. Asat. Asat doesn't mean something evil or something, obnoxious. Asat means something which is temporary. Asat Sanga, that has no value. Sat Sang, something which is permanent, something that is auspicious. Asat Sang, which is temporary, which is inauspicious. So Asat Sanga Tyaga. In this material world, if we want to protect ourselves from material nature, we have to give up bad association. This bad association could be in any form. Mother, father, husband, wife, son, daughter, brother, sister, friends, society, anything. Anything could be asatsang. If one is not inclined to surrendering to Krishna, it is asatsang. Srila Prabhupada left his own wife, Radharani, wife of Srila Prabhupada. She was a chaste lady and she was a devotee of the Lord. She used to chant the holy names also. Yet Srila Prabhupada considered her asatsang because she was stopping him from executing the instructions of his spiritual master. So you see, the definition of asatsang goes so deep because he considered the wife and children to be obstructions in the path of his bhakti. He gave them up. So that is asatsang. So by giving up bad association of materialistic men, so the bad association of materialistic men can be avoided only in the association of devotees. The living entity wants to associate. Like Hare Krishna. Yeah. So this devotee association, see, alone a living entity will always think of sex. That's a fact. You know, like Srila Prabhupada would say that, because that's nature, that's the default conditioning of the living entity. He will always think of sex if he doesn't think of Krishna. And therefore he will fall down. So when we say asat sanga tyaga, we're not advocating that one simply lives alone. One should live in the association of devotees. One should associate with devotees by hearing and chanting. Association of devotees simply doesn't mean physical association. It means associating through instructions of the spiritual master, Krishna Katha, by hearing and reciting the glories of Lord. That is the way one associates with Vaishnavas. So only such association can save us from the bad association of this material world. So by associating with devotees, we can execute the 9-step devotional service. Otherwise, one will always return to this material world in some way or the other. Because ordinary materialistic men, their minds are enamored by this material world. So they are naturally going to talk of Vishaya. So when they are talking of Vishaya, they will influence our mind also. So we hear the story of Rishaya Shranga. So there the explanation is given by the Acharyas that, the question is, why did Rishaya Shranga become attracted to the ladies who are dressed as sages? So the explanation is that lusty desires are inherent to the embodied living entity, because embodied living entity means there is already Rajoguna and Tamoguna. So this lust is already is present there. As soon as it is given the opportunity, it manifests. So for example, in the Vedic culture, there's a particular type of wood which is known as Arani. This Arani wood was actually previously used in Yajna. So Arani wood is special because there is fire in the wood. So, but it remains hidden. So when Arani wood is rubbed with each other, this fire is manifest. So likewise, this lust is always hidden within the heart of the living entity. As soon as it is given the opportunity through the association of opposite sex or materialistic men, immediately this fire of lust is manifest. So Rishaya Shranga became attracted to females because his lust was already in his heart. It had been subdued by the association of his father, who was a great sage. But as soon as he saw ladies, even though he could not identify them, even though he couldn't identify their female form, and even though he did not even understand the identity of female at that time, this subtle lust within his heart became manifest as gross lust, and he fell down. So therefore, by associating with Krishna and constantly remaining away from materialistic people, we can actually go back to Godhead. Because by hearing and chanting in the association of pure devotees, the memories of Krishna will reawaken, and then we'll be able to cross this material world. Yeah. So we continue now. Text 1. Rahugana Uvacha. Namo Namaha Karana Vigrahaya.
Namo Namaha Karana Vigrahaya.
Swarupa Tuchhikrata Vigrahaya.
Swarupa Tuchhikrata
Vigrahaya.
Namo Avadhuta Dvijabandhu Linga.
Namo Avadhuta
Dvijabandhu
Nigudha Nityanubhavaya Tubhyam.
Mary too?
Yes, please.
Hare Krishna Vidyanva Pranam. Translation proposed by Sri Prabhupada. Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. King Raghunath said, O most exalted personality, you are not different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By the influence of your true self, all kinds of contradictions in the Shastras have been removed. In the dress of a friend of Brahman, you are hiding your transitional blissful position. I offer my respectful obeisance to you. But from the Brahma Samhita, we understand The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of all causes. Sarvakaran Karanam. Vishnudev was the direct incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes. His son, Bharat Maharaj, who was now acting as the Brahmin, Jadabharat, had received his body from the cause of all causes. Therefore, he is addressed as Karana Vigraha. Thank you, Prabhuji. Dhanapana.
Hare Krishna. You are not, O most exalted personality, you are not different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By the influence of your true self, all kinds of contradictions in the Shastras have been removed. In the dress of a friend of a Brahmana, you are hiding your transcendental blissful position. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. So, Swarupa Tuchikrata Vigrahaya, Namo Namah Karana Vigrahaya. So, Karana Vigrahaya, one whose body emanates from the Supreme Person, the cause of all causes. Swarupa Tuchikrata Vigrahaya, one who removes all contradictions. Namo Avadhuta Dvijabandhu Linga, or renunciate, who is in the body of a Dvijabandhu. The Dvijabandhu is like a Brahmana but not a Brahmana. One who takes birth in a Brahmanical family, who has Brahmanical qualities but is not yet a fully like a qualified Brahmana. Dvijabandhu. So, Nigudha Nityanubhavaya Tubhyam. So you have uncovered, you have uncovered the secrets of eternal life. You are hiding your transcendental blissful position. So, see, so therefore Maharaj Jadabharat, he was Bharat Maharaj himself in the guise of a Brahmabandhu. Actually, there was no loss. Neha Vikramo Nashosti Pratyavayona Vidyate. So there was no loss, no diminution in the position of Bharat Maharaj. Because even though he had to take the body of a deer for an intermediary time, he still came back as a human being to execute his mission. So there was no loss really, because in the time scale of eternity, this is just a minor blip. Because in this whole process, he did not lose his consciousness. He remained as he was. So he's referred to as non-different from Supreme Personality of Godhead, Karana Vigrahaya, because he's a spiritual master. So two reasons. One is, first of all, he's the son of the Supreme Lord. Now, the son of the Supreme Lord is a jiva. Yes, that is true. But if he's executing the mission of the Lord completely, then he's as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like Uddhav, sometimes he was also referred to as Bhagavan. Now, Uddhav is a jiva. But because he loves Krishna so much that even his external appearance is almost like that of Krishna. Sometimes Arjun is also referred to as Krishna, because their mission is the same as that of Krishna. They are complete unalloyed devotees of Krishna. So Maharaj Bharat, he was the son of Rishabdev. So by that relation, he was as good as the Supreme Lord. But because he was executing the mission of Rishabdev also fully, he was as good as Rishabdev himself. Sakshat Dharitvena Samasta Shastra. The spiritual master is as good as Krishna. Because he represents Krishna fully, he is to be respected as much as Krishna. So for all practical purposes, the spiritual master is Krishna. So Maharaj Raghuguna is now giving that same honor to Jadabharat. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments here so far?
Hare Krishna with Dhanapana.
Hare Krishna. Yes, bro.
As per Shastras, who are the spiritual gurus who failed?
Who failed?
Yeah. For example, Shukdev, he failed in Bali Maharaj's case.
Shukracharya.
Shukracharya. But there are some other cases like that, instances with Shastras?
Not that I can think of. Shukracharya is the most prominent one, actually. As a spiritual master, no, I think this is the only one that comes.
Otherwise, very elevated.
Because spiritual master is not an ordinary position. Yes, Shukracharya is more like a materialistic guru. He's not exactly a spiritual master in that sense of the word.
He was materialistic, that's correct. because we were taking care of Bali Maharaj and his family, children. I think his daughter, etc. Also, there was a case.
Yeah. Maharaj Yayati, Devyani.
Exactly.
That's the
Exactly.
daughter of Shukracharya. So as
Thank
such,
you.
like there are instances of fathers feeling there, like Daksha. Then there is this Twishta. So these are some of the sages who have failed. But as such, as a spiritual master, I can't think of anyone. I mean, Daksh, there is Kashyap, there is Twishta. There are some of the sages I can think of who failed in their respective duties.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
If I find something, I'll post it on the group.
Sure. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavata. Prabhuji, why is he called Brahma Bandhu here? Just because he was not performing his materialistic Brahmanical duties?
Yes, because he's not like dressed like a proper Brahmana. He's not behaving like a proper Brahmana.
Because actually the definition of a Brahmana is the one who knows Brahman. Brahma Janati Brahmana.
Yeah, but he has not performed any sanskaras.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like wandering here and there. He's wearing unclean clothes. He has not washed himself. Brahmanas are supposed to wash themselves 3 times a day. So he has not washed himself. He's not maintaining his head properly. He's not doing Gayatri. So he's living like a Brahma Bandhu.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes. Hanji.
Prabhuji, what is that quality which the king Rahugana had, due to which he could recognize Jad Bharat and his position?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So, see, he's a king. He's qualified. The one quality that he had, that he listened. This is the quality that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur pointed out also. So Rahugana's one quality was that he listened submissively. So according to this description, we see that he actually had no qualifications. He was proud, he was arrogant, and he was in a position of a king. So in Rajoguna, like Mahaprabhu also says with regards to Pratap Rudra Maharaj, that simply because he's a king, I cannot meet him. So in that way, Rahugana was not actually qualified. He was very arrogant also, but he listened submissively. When Jada Bharat spoke, he did not interrupt him. He did not object to him. He heard him. So that was his qualification.
Okay.
True. Yes. I was very arrogant. Initially, you were very arrogant. And you were trying to admonish him for minor things also. That's correct.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So, text 2. Jwara Mayaratsya Yathagadam Sat. Nidaga Dagdhasya Yatha Himambha.
Nidhagadasya yatha himambha.
Himasya.
Kudeha Manahi Vidashta Drishte. Brahman Vachaste Amritam Aushadham Me. Yes.
May I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Ji. Hare Krishna. Shila Prabhupada Ji ki jai.
Jai.
Translation. O best of Brahmanas, my body is filled with dirty things, and my vision has been bitten by the serpent of pride. Due to my material conceptions, I am diseased. Your nectarian instructions are the proper medicine for one suffering from such a fever, and they are cooling water for one scorched by the heat. Purport. The conditioned soul has a body full of dirty things, bones, blood, urine, stool, and so forth. Nonetheless, the most intelligent men in this material world think they are these combinations of blood, bone, urine, and stool. If this is so, why can't other intelligent men be made with these ingredients, which are so readily available? The entire world is going under the bodily conception and creating a hellish condition unfit for a gentleman's living. The instructions given to King Rahuguna by Jad Bharat are very valuable. They are like the medicine that can save one from a snake bite. The Vedic instructions are like nectar and cool water for one suffering from the scorching heat. Thank you, Ji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So the conditioned soul has a body full of dirty things, bones, blood, urine, stool, and so forth. Nonetheless, the most intelligent men in this material world think they are these combinations of blood, bone, urine, and stool. So the entire world is going on under the bodily conception, creating a hellish condition. So what is this condition really? What is the living entity really made of? Even the so-called blood, bone, urine, stool, even they are just combinations of the Panchamahabhut. So the 5 gross elements. So Krishna, so actually, and these elements, when they come in contact with the 3 modes of nature, then, we see life as it is. Then we see this material life, Rajoguna, Tamoguna, Sattva-guna. So living entities that are just sleeping, they are in Tamoguna. The living entities that are active are in Rajoguna. And living entities that are inquiring about the Brahman, they are in Sattva-guna. Living entities that are in knowledge, they are in Sattva-guna. So living entity on his own is simply drowning in this ocean of material existence. Maya Mugdha Jivera Nahi Swata Krishna Gyan, Jivera Kripaya Kaila Krishna Veda Purana. Maya Mugdha Jivera Nahi Swata Krishna Gyan, the living entity who's caught up in this material manifestation, he cannot know Krishna himself. So please try to understand this. If you read the 2nd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam very carefully, you'll realize one very horrible thing, that this material world is designed in such a way that one cannot remember Krishna. By his own volition, by his own effort, one can never realize Krishna. And why is that? Because this is Durga. This is the domain of Durga. This has been created so that the living entity can forget Krishna. Now, for example, if you go to a pig pen where pigs are stored, you'll only find dirty things there. You can't keep that place clean because that place is supposed to be dirty. Or if you go to a garbage dump, you can't expect that some cleanliness there because it is a garbage dump. So material world is like that. It is the first layer which covers all the living entities is that of Ahankar. And there, the very first layer is Tamas. And in Tamas layer, Tamisra layer, one completely forgets his relationship with Krishna. So that is this material nature. It's very, very hard. It's practically impossible to understand Krishna in this material world. So therefore, the Vedic instructions are given to purify one. So actually in this material nature, in these 3 modes, one becomes affected by so many problems, by so many lamentations, by so many emotions. So actually similar condition Arjun is also explaining. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjun has also surrendered to Krishna because he knows that he cannot solve his problem. Karpanya dosha pahat svabhava prachhami tvam dharma sammudha cheta yat shreyasyan nishchitam bruhitan me shishyasteham shadimam tvamo prapannam. So he's saying Karpanya dosha pahat svabhava. So Karpanya, miserly weakness, Karpanya dosh, miserly weakness, upahata svabhava. So I'm showing the characteristics. My character is now affected by the attack of this miserliness. What is this miserliness? Aham mameti. What was Arjun's miserliness? My grandfather, my teacher, my brothers, my countrymen, if I kill them, what will happen? He's thinking like that. So he's thinking in terms of aham mameti. Here also Maharaj Rahuguna is thinking, I am the king, I am powerful. So that is also Karpanya dosh, miserly weakness. That is also miserly weakness. So this is the miserly weakness of all living entities. Aham mameti. So in this way, he has now considered himself to be this body. Now he's requesting Rahuguna is requesting Jada Bharat to give him that instructions by which he can become free. Now here we see, this is very similar to the surrender of Devahuti. She's also asking Kapila Dev, Lord Kapila Dev, she's saying, my dear Lord, who I considered my son, Please give me that knowledge by which I can become free from the fear of this, from fear and lamentation of this material world. So she's also surrendering there because she also acknowledges that she has lived in ignorance. Now here Rahugana is also acknowledging that. So what is the recourse? So the Vedic instructions, so the instructions given to King Rahugana by Jada Bharat are very valuable. They are like the medicine that can save one from a snake bite. The Vedic instructions are like nectar and cool water for one suffering from scorching heat. So you see, Jada Bharat, he's a self-realized soul, but he's not speaking something out of his own mental concoction. He is speaking from the Vedas. He's giving the Vedic wisdom. Maya Mugdha Jivera Nahi Swata Krishna Gyan, Jivera Kripaya Kela, Krishna Veda Purana. So Krishna has given the Vedas and Puranas by which one can understand him. So what is to be understood from these scriptures? Vedaishta sarver aham eva vedya. Krishna is saying, from all the Vedas, I am to be known. So therefore, those instructions by which one can understand Krishna, they are Vedic instructions. But they must come from someone who is self-realized, just like Jada Bharat here is. And by hearing a self-realized soul, one can become free from all the limitations of this material world. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu.
Dandavat Pranam.
This purport, the third line. If this is so, why can't other intelligent men be made with these ingredients, which are so readily available? What does it mean?
So, the conditioned soul has a body full of dirty things. Nonetheless, the most intelligent men in this material world think that they are these combinations of blood, bone, urine, and stool. So everyone is going through this misconception that I am this body. And one thinks, oh, I am very intelligent. Actually, these combinations are existing anywhere. Actually, in this world, nobody is really the best. Every time somebody is the best at something, someone better turns up. That means this material nature is just going on and on by the combination of 8 material elements. The Panch Mahabhut and mind, this mind, intelligence, and ahankar. So they are just combinations. So one may think one is intelligent, but one is not really. Real intelligence is to know that one is not this body. So no one can think that he's the best.
What was my imagination? Is Prabhupada talking about the test tube baby of today?
Pardon?
Is Prabhupada talking about the test tube baby? Well, these days, in test tubes, the baby can be produced. He said, when all these things are available so easily, why can't we reproduce like that?
Oh, okay.
That's in fact.
I mean, test tube baby, what is test tube baby? The test tube baby is also just like a real baby only.
Yeah.
Just a fusion of gametes takes place outside the body. So it's not really a chemical. I mean, no one is really creating the ovum or the sperm. They just take them from living entities, they put them together, and then they put them back into the womb of the mother. So it's not really a test tube baby.
So Prabhupada immediately repeated this line. So I thought it must be carrying some meaning. Nonetheless, the most intelligent in the material world think that they are these combination of blood, urine, and all that. And if this is so, why others cannot, other intelligent men be made with these ingredients? That was the phrase agitating about. Okay, probably.
Actually, yeah, I mean, what Srila Prabhupada here means is that, one may think one is most intelligent. But if one thinks that one is this body, then what is the value of that intelligence? In reality, every living entity is made of the same element. We have to study civil engineering for at least 7 years before we can actually design a dam. But a beaver, which is just an animal, it makes dams all the time. So all these living entities, ahar, nidra, bhai, maithun. So if one is, what is bodily misconception? Ahar, nidra, bhai, maithun.
Yeah.
So if one's intelligence is not going beyond that, then that is no intelligence really.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we are just running out of time now. Verses bit too long. Yeah. Any questions someone has? Just take one question. It's just 1 minute left. Because the next verse is actually very important verse. I don't want to do it very quickly. It's 14. Yes, Anumataji, you have a question. Hare Krishna. Yes, Anumataji, you have a question? Okay, yes. Mr. Prabhu, you were asking something?
No problem. I had that question.
Okay, not a problem. So we stop here today then. Thank you very much. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Prabhu.
you.
Pranam.
Pranam.
Dandavat
Hare
pranam.
Krishna. Dandavat
Thank you,
pranam.
Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam.